Welcome back to the Remedial Film Class Podcast. I'm your host, Dan.
And I'm Travis.
And I'm George.
And George is stuck between a rock and a hatred for Nicolas Cage. Dudes, we made George watch a Nicolas Cage movie.
Oops.
Let's see how that went.
It's okay, because I finally got to see a movie with Sean Connery.
That's right.
Yeah, we had a lot of first appearances on the show tonight with 1996's excellent The Rock. I guess I shouldn't judge it as excellent until we hear from George, but I mean, how could you not love this movie, George?
Actually,
how could you not love this movie?
I wanted to hear from you guys first this time. How much do you guys love this movie?
Well, I have to say, this movie is like the pinnacle of working at the movie theater and watching blockbuster films. Like, I mean, I probably watched this movie about 15, 20 times in the theater. Not because it was great, but it was great. Like, there's just a lot of great stuff in this. It's a quintessential Michael Bay movie. I'm a fan of Michael Bay. I know he's obnoxious to some people, and I know he's like overindulgent, some people will say. But I enjoy his movies for what they are. Are they Shakespeare? No. Are they Godfather? Absolutely not. But they are fun.
So one thing that's happened recently, George, is Michael Bay has come, I think, almost full circle as a filmmaker. In the early to mid-90s, when he came out of making TV commercials and went into making blockbuster films, he was on top of the world. And then everybody got kind of bored of what was the staple of like 91, 92 to 98 or so. This run of blockbusters that are just increasingly big, increasingly detached from reality, but each one kind of in its own unique, individual standalone universe in which it may not correspond to the actual reality, but within the reality of the film, they generally follow, some kind of realistic bent. Nowadays, thanks to mostly the Marvel movies, but this kind of glut of superhero movies that everybody loves to either hate on or defend against the haters, when Michael Bay makes a movie now, people look at it from a critical standpoint and go, this guy's not as horrible as we said he was.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's fun now to, in this exact moment, to go back to what is probably my favorite movie of his and judge it critically, not just from its own time, but, in today's view of what makes a blockbuster movie.
Visually, I'd have to say Pearl Harbor is my favorite. If you take out all the mushy love stuff.
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of that movie is the mushy love stuff.
I know, but if I pop that DVD in, I usually start it right when the Japanese planes are flying towards the harbor. Like, it's epic. You feel it. It's almost like Saving Private Ryan, epic feel, war movie. If you take out the Ben Affleck love BS.
That's how the very, very beginning of this movie felt.
Hold on.
Felt like
just the very, very, very beginning. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be a war movie. It's going to be serious.
It had a Few Good Men kind of feel.
And then, that lasted for about 15 seconds.
Yeah. Well, they had to establish a 90s version of M.O.
Okay, but you didn't think that it was going to be a mushy, love story from the beginning?
No, I thought it was going to be a serious war movie.
Yeah, and that opening scene is visual poetry. I mean, I don't know that you could sustain that for much longer than they did, but, between the set design and the rain and his little monologue to his dead wife, dude, that's some good stuff. Put that into my veins, or at least DVD player.
Yeah, what kept popping in my head was when you were talking about Manhunter and every shot is like a painting, and that's when I think of that, I think of these kind of movies where it's just like everything, even if the guy's going to the bathroom, it's sprawling.
And the lighting is always so good.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's a well-lit
I know he's
piss
pissing,
stream.
But yeah, like the rain coming down, all that stuff is like... It's funny you brought up the Marvel movies, because back in the 90s, superhero movies were kind of not respected.
Yeah,
They
they're still not
well,
respected.
they're a little bit more respected. Back in the 90s, the technology wasn't there, so you have like a Spawn or Blade was pretty good, but like the Spawn movies, the Batman movies, like all those movies kind of tried to do the superhero thing, but it felt weird because it was real people. Michael Bay movies were able to do that, even though it's outlandish and ridiculous and people are hanging from their pinkies and they're trying to save the world without their pants on. Like, it's ridiculous situations, but it's at least done well enough to where you're like, okay, I'm buying into this superhero situation, and I don't feel like I'm a child watching it.
Well, and that's one thing that it's hard to get across without showing George another 15 movies.
Right.
But in a lot of ways, from a 90s perspective, George, The Rock, are you ready for this? Is pretty grounded.
Yeah.
Okay.
Think of like the Fast and the Furious movies, but like the cars can like climb walls and shit. Like,
well, and
it's
not
just
even
like,
from the
wait, what?
superhero perspective, but I mean, if you look at action movies from, let's say, like 75 through 85, you've got this, increasingly first blood, one man against a large army type things. But then the 80s come and you start getting stuff like Commando, where it's literally one man against an entire army, right? And then you get stuff from the Steven Seagal era where it's more grounded in some ways, but then like you have to believe that like some of this karate stuff is actually going to work against like Kane Hodder and all the other stuntmen.
Or Roadhouse.
And
where
then you
Patrick
come
Swayze
up on
plays a badass.
The Rock, where really, aside from, me not being able to fact check the nerve toxin and whether that's a
Right.
realistic way to use a nerve toxin, and the fact that I read a few weeks ago that the glass beads thing is all made up, that you'd never put this kind of toxin in glass, but it certainly makes a more dramatic third act.
Dramatic, yeah.
Other than that, it's kind of not that far from like a Tom Clancy movie. Really, it's just fancier.
You're right. It's like they were like, all right, let's take a Tom Clancy movie and just kind of
fun it up
fun it up a bit, yeah. Kind of like Jason Bourne. Like the Jason Bourne movies were a good mix of the 90s action and the Tom Clancy like thriller type. Did you ever watch those, the Jason Bourne movies?
Yeah, when they came out a long time
Yeah.
ago.
This and I guess Bad Boys would be kind of up there with my Michael Bay catalog.
Bad Boys 2 is maybe my favorite movie aside from Wayne's World
Yeah.
to just put on at any time of day and love it.
Yeah. They're good characters. They could put them in 10 movies. It's kind of like Lethal Weapon. I could watch 10 of those and be fine with it.
So, George, how are you doing? I need to know before we go any further, though. You're kind of known amongst our listenership for not being one to read the credits. When did you find out that Nicolas Cage was in this movie?
In the opening credits.
Damn it.
You're not even going to reprimand him?
So it wasn't when he was cocking that dart gun and shooting a piece of paper?
No.
Yeah. So you were in on it.
See, and I had a note on here. Did George read Cage's name in the credits? Ugh, he did. Damn it. Hey, so here's the thing. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I don't know if Travis is going to come out with me on the same limb. Nicolas Cage is really good in this movie.
Mm-hmm. He's very subdued. This is before he goes off the deep end.
Yeah, this is his, Pacino in Heat. Like, yeah, he's got one line that's, a little exaggerated.
Is that
But,
the one I did earlier?
yeah.
Cut the chit-chat, a-hole!
Yeah, I mean, other than the a-hole line, right, which comes at a very, kind of warm and fuzzy moment. He just cuts that feeling right out of the movie with the a-hole line.
Great asshole.
For the most part, he's really good in this, and I like him a lot. George,
Well, I
tell
think
us
it's the
about
character he's
Nicolas
playing.
Cage.
He was terrible.
In
Like
this
he always
movie
is in every
that you
mo-
just
yeah.
watched?
Yeah, dude. He's Nicolas Cage in every movie.
See, I think
He acts the same way. It doesn't matter what his character is.
How many
he
Nicolas
acts like
Cage movies
Nicolas
have you
Cage.
seen, George?
Yeah.
I don't know, like 3
What
or
one?
4. I saw Face Off, and I saw 2 National Treasure movies, and I saw this one.
What's funny is Face Off is actually a movie where he's actually acting in.
Because he's trying to
not
be
only is-
Travolta, right?
Yeah, he's trying to be Travolta, and when he's being Travolta as was it what's the name of the character? The bad guy. Casper or something. I can't remember what his name was.
No, I don't remember. I saw it a long time ago. Like I was like I was a kid. It was a long time
He
ago.
definitely got the direction to play it up.
Yeah, but when I saw it, my hate for Nicolas Cage did not start the first movie I saw, which
Right.
was Face Off.
Okay.
It started
Honeymoon in Vegas.
no, it started with like National Treasure.
Okay.
It was just terrible.
See, I like
So-
the first National Treasure was okay.
Here's
second
the
one I didn't
problem, George, and I think we need to explore this more as the show goes on. But by your explanation for your feelings towards Nicolas Cage, you should hate, and I mean with a capital H, Al Pacino. Like, you should look at Al Pacino in The Godfather and be like, you know what? He's the same in every movie. I mean, granted, he's not the same in this movie, but he's the same in all those other movies, so he must be the same in all movies. Therefore, I hate Al Pacino. That is how you should feel, if you feel that way about Nick Cage.
I don't think it's that, but the fact that he doesn't change with his character, right? He is Nicolas Cage no matter what character he's playing. It's not that he acts the same way for every character. That does annoy me. But what most annoys me is that he acts like Nicolas Cage.
Which makes the new movie pretty good. That's a good idea that he's playing himself.
It's so dumb. We're watching. We went to see the Batman a couple weeks ago, as you know, and that preview was played before the movie. The new
It
Nicolas
looks
Cage
good.
movie where Nicolas Cage plays Nicolas Cage. Shoot me in the head.
Well,
Poor George.
in a vacuum, I would argue that his performance in this movie is really, really good. Probably his best performance that I've seen in any kind of action set piece movie. Although I do really like him in the movie Kick-Ass,
Yes.
but that is a completely different beast that you're
You
not
don't
ready
really
for.
know it's him.
But the difference between Cage and Pacino is that, yes, Pacino plays the same, he acts the same character in all of his movies, but all of his movies kind of call for that character, and when Pacino plays that character, it doesn't make my skin crawl.
Right.
It's just Nicolas Cage's character that he acts in every movie makes my skin crawl.
Gotcha.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, at least you had Ed Harris in this movie holding it down. This was the first Ed Harris movie I saw, and immediately
Really?
lifetime fan.
Oh God.
which character was Ed Harris?
He's the bad guy, the big
guy,
bad.
the main guy.
Oh yeah, he was good.
He's great in everything. And
Yeah,
he's been around
I've seen
forever.
him. I've seen him before in other things. He's good.
Yeah, he goes back to late 60s, I guess, early 70s.
The earliest thing I've seen him in was Knight Riders, which is
Okay.
like 79, 80, somewhere in there.
He was in The Right Stuff.
Oh, and John C. McGinley is here. And we just saw him on something. Was it? He wasn't in Heat, right? Where was he?
No, he's in
Heat?
7.
Oh, he's the SWAT guy in 7.
He's California. He's the helicopter pilot. California, stay away from here.
Yeah, we just saw
Somebody
him.
call somebody. He's the guy that says my favorite line in the movie. Somebody call somebody. Like, who says that?
But yeah, he's a hell of an
Uh,
actor too. And
David
does a
Morris.
good job.
David Morris is awesome in this.
And which
He
one is
played-
David Morris?
David Morris you hate him because he's in 12 Monkeys. He plays the guy that infects, brings the virus onto the airplane. In this movie, he's the second in command, I think.
Oh, the
yeah.
second bad.
Yeah. The one who's like just loyal to the end.
Yeah.
And Tony Todd.
Tony
Don't-
Todd. Now,
don't
George,
say it
did you
again.
catch Tony Todd as in the? Oh no, I think we get 5 with Tony Todd. Actually,
We get 5.
Oh God, that's 4.
Rudy Prue. Wait, what does he say?
I don't know. Maybe I should say Tony Todd again. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Boo! Who you cool? Listen to Candyman. Come with me and be immortal.
What character does TT play?
He was one of the hired mercenaries that came in on the other batch. He's Candyman. He's
the one who...
Oh, okay.
Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, okay.
He says, from the moment we took hostages, we are now mercenaries, and I want my fucking money.
He
or
wants
something
his
like
fucking
that.
money.
Fucking money.
Yes.
So
yeah.
cool.
TT wants his fucking money.
It's a hell of a
Yeah.
cast. Did you guys ever watch The Practice?
Yes.
Because
No.
Steve Harris is here. He's the sniper guy at the very end who gets
Mhm.
clubbed by
Mm.
Sean Connery right as he's about to shoot Stanley Goodspeed as he's gonna save the day. I always liked him. He was probably my favorite guy on The Practice. So
Yes.
happy to see him here in a, he lasted a long time. He almost made it to the end kind of role.
I really enjoyed back then this cast. It's kind of like, what was it? Armageddon came out too, and that movie was terrible. But it had such a good, it had Steve Buscemi, like that crew, Michael Clark Duncan, like all those guys that were really good, but the movie was just bad.
Well, and I mean, the best song you've ever heard.
Yes. Yeah. Aerosmith. Woof.
Oh my God. You do want to close your eyes. And you also want to close your ears because you can hear it, baby. And you just want it to stop.
Bad. It could be worse.
But heck of a cast, heck of an action movie. A couple of unnecessary car chases that don't really justify themselves.
It reminded me of a John Landis movie where it's just all of a sudden there's a car chase.
Yeah, the Humvee chase.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the Humvee chase for two reasons. One, they basically do it again in Bad Boys 2,
Right.
and that's hilarious. But also, I love the Humvee chase through San Francisco because it's like shades of Dirty Harry and all those other 70s movies that took advantage of the height, and even isn't Basic Instinct in San Francisco?
Yes.
So, I mean, it's in the fabric of all my favorite movies, but I want to say there was at one point where Michael Bay says to the producer, no, we can't cut this car chase because I really need to justify Goodspeed talking to Sean Connery for 30 seconds.
Hmm.
So we need to have this whole car chase so they can have their 30-second moment. It's beautiful.
That's
Love
funny.
it.
And what makes it better is I read somewhere that they had to get 5,000 signatures anywhere in the city where they wanted to film in the streets within a 2-block radius. So every time they had to do another 2 blocks, they had to get another 5,000 signatures of the residents to let them do it.
That's amazing.
And I'm thinking, holy crap, the amount of driving around in the city they did just for those car chases to be a Michael Bay movie. But Connery.
Sean
Yeah,
Connery.
you
Is this
get
his first?
freaking
This is
Connery.
his first appearance on the show, I believe, right?
I believe, yeah.
So you get your first Michael Bay, you get your first Sean Connery at the same time. Now, for your first Sean Connery, I mean, the question everyone has on their minds after watching this movie and knowing you're watching this movie: has he lost his sex appeal?
I mean, for me,
He's kind of hot. That hair, though.
you're just saying that because of the meme I sent earlier.
Yeah. I'm going to cut this popsicle up with a knife.
But seriously, what do you think? Is Sean Connery as cool as you thought he was going to be in a movie?
Not really.
What?
He's fine. I mean, he's fine.
You have unrealistic standards.
I mean, no, he's totally cool. He's not as cool as Clooney in
True.
what you call it?
Well, it's different. It's he's
What's that movie
classier.
I'm thinking of?
Batman.
Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah,
Oh,
Dusk Till
Dust
Dawn.
Till Dawn. Yeah,
But he's classier than Seth from Dusk Till Dawn. Like this, he's proper.
he rolls the wrong way through a furnace to open the door and succeeds.
yeah.
Do you know about the Wendy theory with this movie?
No,
Oh, no.
what is it? Please tell me. It might improve
Well,
it.
it's not really a Wendy theory. It's more like a conspiracy theory,
Which is
which to Dan is the same thing. Supposedly, it's implied.
it's pronounced supposedly. Keep going.
Supposed. I always say supposedly. I'll never
No,
change
that
it.
is the correct pronunciation. I was
Okay.
fucking with you. Go ahead.
He's supposed to be either an homage, a reference, or an exact pull of James Bond now. Like,
Oh,
he's been incarcerated for however many years.
makes sense.
And that's like the internet mystery. Like, ooh, is it done on purpose?
Now, this
they
is-
never really.
No, this is just me because I'm going to ask a stupid question.
Mhm.
He played
He played
James Bond, right?
He was the first Bond.
right.
He
okay.
is Bond to
He is James Bond.
an entire generation of men and women.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So they're saying like either either Michael Bay or Bruckheimer, whoever, kind of put that Easter egg in there that it's possible that he might be
Yeah.
James Bond.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's a conspiracy theory or an Easter egg. I think that's like the entire reason they cast him.
Right. Without saying the name.
Right. It was a freebie. Like it's like if you guys watched the Rescue Rangers movie, that just came out on Disney Plus.
I heard
It's-
there's a shit ton of cameos. In this
It's a whole mess. It's the Lego
Yeah.
movie, but it's not trying to sell me Legos. It's just like
right.
keep subscribing because you like all these things. But it's
like
worth it
Ready
for
Player One.
yeah, it's worth it for Ugly Sonic alone. It's a
Yeah.
real fun movie. But there's a part in there where they talk about like knockoff cartoons. And so this is Sean Connery being put through the knockoff machine. And like they're not going to say he's James Bond because then they have to pay the Broccoli family. But he's
Right.
British intelligence with an SAS background. And he's been incarcerated since 1972. Like,
Yeah.
it
Was
is
that like when he stopped making Bond
yeah,
movies?
It's
Yeah.
100% James Bond.
Yeah.
His last appearance in the canon as James Bond is 1971, and then he's arrested in 72. It's amazing.
Which is
funny.
cool. I like it.
That's funny.
I'm a fan.
But you
And
know,
he's
if he had
likable.
talked to his daughter and said additional dialogue that's not in the movie, never mind.
And the carpets changed every time he turned around.
Yeah, because that that happens when you shoot on location over a long period of time.
It's true. Is this before or after he did Dragonheart? Did you ever see Dragonheart, where he was the voice of the dragon?
I have not seen Dragonheart, but that was the same year.
So
I would have to look at
96.
release dates to tell you for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of the movie that brought him back. Not out of retirement, but he had not really done much. He did The Untouchables, I think was the last one he did, which was early 90s.
The Untouchables, by the way, pretty good.
Or 89.
Pretty good.
Oh, I love The Untouchables. That's a great movie.
Because he did Hunt for Red October. Don't forget about that one. In
Yeah.
90.
Oh, that's right. That was 90s.
He did a few in the mid 90s, and then like he does Finding Forrester in 2000, and that's about it.
Mhm.
I mean, he did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but
Yeah, I don't think anybody saw that. Yeah, so I guess he didn't really go away.
The Old Vengers, is that what it should be called?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, this is really toward the end, and probably his last big action set piece movie.
Mm-hmm.
So there
I
you
like
go,
his
George.
presence on the screen. He kind of, I don't know, with that hair, he kind of, I don't know. I think he was pretty badass in this movie.
He seemed threatening with the long hair, like kind of a
Yeah.
rabid animal. A little bit like it, you know, if
Michael Myers.
your friend and mine, Hannibal, had ever busted through, you know, a two-way glass and been like, "Oh, Douglas," or whatever, you know.
Right. He looked like if Rob Zombie directed 007. It's like here's my version of James Bond. He looks like Michael Myers.
He actually reminded me of Lecter a bit.
Yeah.
With his, you know, like, he was kind of, you know, for being in prison for so long, you know, pretty cultured. He didn't lose his culture.
Right.
Or his accent. But yeah, that's the thing with Silence of the Lambs' success in 91. We're going to see those ripples all the way through the early 2000s.
Yeah. What's funny is when I watched the first Suicide Squad movie, the one with Will Smith,
Mm-hmm.
everything they did with Will Smith was stolen from this movie.
Oh, that's funny.
He was the Sean Connery character. You know, he was incarcerated. They went to him with the proposal, you know, to keep his family or his daughter safe. But ultimatum was he had to see her one more time or something. Like, it was like almost the same exact character, and he was also a badass, smacking people.
Yeah, that movie was a slap in the face for me. I didn't make it
God.
very
I was
far
gonna
in.
say not much has changed.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
No, that movie was terrible. The second one was
Well, Silence of the Lambs has a long reach into the mid to late 90s and beyond. You know what else has a long reach, guys, is the Hans Zimmer music from this movie, which he's actually credited as like the number 2 music guy. So this has got to
Yeah.
be pretty early in his run. But the main theme to this movie, that dun, 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 dun,
Mhm.
I mean, that's Black Hawk Down later. That is...
And Pirates of the Caribbean. I heard a lot of that in this music too.
Well, and then Command and Conquer Generals. I don't know if you guys ever played early 2000s computer games, but the music in that is 100% ripped off of Hans Zimmer,
Right.
and it's more The Rock than it is Black Hawk Down. So this was like a defining piece for 10 years.
Yeah.
Also, Battlefield 1942 had a total conversion mod called Desert Combat, also borrowed very heavily from this exact score. So
There was one song he did that kind of had this kind of feel that they used for 2 decades for movie trailers. It was, I don't know what movie it might have been either Hunt for Red October or Crimson Tide, but I remember in the Crimson Tide trailer, and I was like, oh, this is like one of those Survivor, Rocky 3 type montage songs that they're going to use constantly. I think the Aliens had a score in the Aliens movie that they used forever in trailers. That people are like, isn't that from Aliens? And it's like in another movie. So it's like these guys, they I don't want to say they're one-trick ponies, but sometimes they just get a sound. Elfman's the same way.
Well, we saw... my kids started watching the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory over the weekend, and from the other room I go, that's Danny Elfman.
Mhm.
I didn't know what they were watching, but I was like, oh, it's Elfman.
Yep.
But we were talking about Hans Zimmer with The Ring, how he would...
Right.
He was doing Joker-type stuff before Dark Knight in The Ring. So, yeah, they're musicians. They've got style. They've got riffs and hooks that they like to trot out now and then when it fits. And
I was thinking the same thing, Dan. I think every musician has a thing.
Well, you have a sound. Just like whenever you hear a Billy Joel song, you know it's a Billy Joel song even before you start singing. It's just the it's the sound.
I think when you're writing
Springsteen.
when you're writing music like for a living, like that's all that you do. There's like certain intervals that you like that are you.
Mhm.
Like when you're searching for the right note or the right interval, you're like, no, that's not what I'm thinking. Oh yeah, there it is.
Mhm.
And it's just that interval that you want to hear because you're writing the song. It's your song. You can make it sound however you want, but you get a feel for like intervals that are you, that you like,
Right.
the ones that your brain is always searching for.
And then when you're around too long,
And that happens to every
Yeah.
professional musician.
you get like Chili Peppers or Metallica, where it's like,
Yeah.
you've been around for 40 years and you're trying to stick to that same sound, but you're just not hitting.
You're
The
not
hits
even,
that you used to
dude.
have.
I'm telling you, it's not even.
It's there.
It's not even a conscious choice.
Right.
When you're a musician, you just kind of like when you're writing what's coming to you, or you're trying to find the right note for what you're trying to make. It's just the sound that's in your head. There are certain intervals that your brain wants to hear, and when you're searching for that feeling, it's like, oh, there it is, and it happens to be the same interval that's in every other one of your songs. Or not, maybe not every one, but like
And that's
you've
when
done
you
that
know
before
you're a
for
big
sure.
movie geek. Like my son did a project in his music class where they did modern composers,
Mhm.
and they were studying John L. Williams and is it Horner? I think Horner's one of the big ones. Zimmer, Elfman. Like they were covering all these guys, and I can hear him listening to this music in the other room, and I'm just sitting there going, like maybe 5 notes in, I'm like, oh, like you said, that's Danny Elfman. John L. Williams.
Mhm.
Oh, that's Jaws. Oh, that's Jaws 2. That's
Jaws
Rocky
2.
3. Jaws 2.
Jaws too.
Oh, man.
So, George, I want to talk to you a little bit about one particular action set piece from this movie, and that is the shower room scene. Who would have thought that a
Mhm.
Michael Bay action movie would have a shower scene?
Right.
And this one's it. Are you familiar with the imagery from that scene at all? Did that seem familiar to you from anywhere else? Because that was the iconic. That's like the scene that lived on beyond this movie. You could forget a majority of what happens after, and a majority of what happens before. But from the time you've got SEALs on the ground and Force Recon up above, and the two commanders are shouting at each other in the most like Jack Nicholson way they possibly can. Sir, I cannot honor that, or you know I can't. Blah blah blah. You do it. You do it. You
Oh.
do da 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 da.
Okay, the shower scene.
The shower scene.
Okay. I thought you were talking about the scene when Sean Connery's in the shower.
Oh,
I
no.
honestly thought that's what you were talking about. I'm like,
I guess
no,
that
I don't
sex
know
appeal
what
is
you're
still
talking
there,
about,
guys. That's
dude.
great.
It really is, yeah.
It's like
Good
I
for
might have
Sean.
seen it in like Tom and Jerry, maybe. I don't know.
But no, the epic shootout in the shower
Yes,
stalls.
the standoff. I don't know. Is it
I believe that's from. They do that in the Matrix.
is
as
it
well, right?
unacceptable to call it a Mexican standoff? Because that's what it was. Is what
It's
it turned
like
into,
a
right?
tombstone. How's that? It's a tombstone standoff.
Nah, it wasn't.
No?
No, it wasn't like that.
The OK Corral, no.
No. Oh well,
Like the
yeah.
alleyway shootout.
The alleyway, yeah, not
Yeah.
at the end. The end was not like that.
No.
The middle when everything
The
started to
infamous
roll.
tombstone shootout, which is
The
in
shootout,
alleyway,
yeah. That's just the standoff.
The
It's, it's the three Spider-Mans pointing at each other.
Right.
Yes, absolutely, Dan.
That-
I have seen that lots of times.
That
since
scene
this
is
movie.
homaged in probably The Simpsons and a bunch of other
Oh,
things. yeah.
100%.
That thing
Yeah.
has endured so much. There is a level based on those shower stalls in the most recent Call of Duty Modern Warfare that came out like
Nice.
4 years ago. Like it
That's
just
that's the bathroom that the movie Saw should have taken place in.
Mm.
actually a movie Saw starring all of those guys in the same situation, just with hacksaws, would have been
Yeah.
a lot more fun.
Yeah.
If we ever get to watch True Lies, I think that is homaged in True Lies as well.
What year is True Lies?
Ooh.
Because
Didn't
it's
we
like
try to watch
right
True
around the
Lies
same
before?
we were
area.
supposed to watch True Lies and we didn't. I think True Lies was like
I thought it was 94.
Oh, is it
94.
earlier?
Yeah, True
Is it
Lies
94?
actually predates
Oh,
The
so
Rock.
they did it first.
Well, if
So
they
where's that
didn't,
originally from?
we're just gonna have to find. I mean, it's the OK Corral, right? It's
Yeah.
it's that thing where it's like your pride is overriding your survival instinct
Hmm.
because you realize as that outgunned. I mean, shit, you could go back to the 300 Spartans
Hmm.
and be like, you're going to die here, but your duty trumps your will to survive. That's just war, man.
Yeah. Can we connect that to
Texas
The
Chainsaw
Triumvirate?
Massacre.
we probably could. The remake maybe. Between the Pietà and the
Well, didn't Michael Bay direct it?
he produced
They're produced.
the
Yeah.
remake, yeah.
Yeah.
He came up a few times.
There you go. We connected it.
There
Boom.
you go.
6 Degrees of Texas Chainsaw.
Easy. Boom.
Boom. Next, please.
You didn't like Nicolas Cage when he was under pressure with the baby doll gas bomb thing?
That was a funny scene. I like that scene. That's good
Do
stuff.
you know? Okay, so the reason why I asked you guys to like kind of go first when you
'Cause
asked
you
me
wanted to
like
shit on it.
what did I
Yeah.
think? No.
No.
It's not because I wanted to shit on it. I wanted to know because I got to the end of this movie and I felt the same way I felt when I watched RoboCop,
Oh, you didn't get it.
which was like I hate it, but I probably am not getting it. And I kind of just wanted to know if you guys are taking this, how seriously you guys are taking this movie,
Right.
right? Because
Was my answer correct then? It was fun.
I don't know.
It
I
was
mean,
fun popcorn movie.
dude, I'm telling you, I've been to like Lambeau, and I saw more cheese in this movie.
Oh yeah. It's 90s cheese.
Like it was
That's
so
government cheese right there.
so cheesy.
I mean, if you don't love the part where they say, he's still alive and the hostages are fine and everybody starts applauding and cheering audibly, you're not
Yeah.
going to like any 90s action movies because that happens over and over, and I don't like it. It's not good. But it's like a trope of the 90s you just have to deal with if you want to ever like a movie from the 90s.
Oh no, no, dude, like you said, Trav, with the car chase, like it's like a Landis car chase.
Mhm.
Like you had like an old lady crossing the street during the car chase. That was just like, oh come on, oh come
You
the
have
f
to
You
have
are
on.
that.
required by the Actors Guild to have an old lady crossing the street. That is a requirement.
Dude, they had
Oh.
a bunch of guys in wheelchairs crossing the street. I'm like, come on.
Dan, can we watch The Untouchables next week?
I mean, it was like I'm watching
the-
it.
That scene in the train station is so good.
Oh my god, and
And
that's
it
a good
applies to
serious
exactly what he's
movie.
talking
But
about.
yeah, that
Yes.
one part that you're thinking of. No, let's not watch it yet because it's getting a 4K, and I let
Okay.
my in-laws borrow my Blu-ray, and I'll probably never get that back. So
Gotcha.
The
it's out of
trolley
my hand.
driver. The trolley driver,
Have you ever seen
guys.
Speed? We probably should have watched Speed
I don't know,
first.
maybe.
Because
No,
that's like the quintessential
I haven't seen Speed. I'm sure. I haven't.
90s action film that's not outlandish like this, but is still outlandish. To the
I
point
don't
where-
know. The thing about The Rock though, versus this movie that George hasn't seen. The thing about The Rock is it is an action movie first, and it makes sure to hit all the high points of the tropey. We gotta have explosions. We gotta have guys who should be dead just
Helicopters.
thrown around by explosions into big pools of water, and we have to have a minecart chase because reasons.
Right.
We have to have the huge action set piece that is,
Alcatraz.
I was gonna say the prison, but yeah, Alcatraz.
Right.
The entire island becomes a character and all these things. But at the same time,
all of the bad guys have to monologue instead of just killing.
Yes.
if
You
you're
need
not
monologue.
monologuing,
Otherwise,
like,
you don't know what's going on.
Oh my god, you need like the bad guys need to just stop monologuing and kill Nicolas Cage already.
but
Like every time Nicolas Cage is vulnerable to be killed, they start monologuing again. Oh my
it's
god.
kind of like that's
I killed the
that's
bus driver.
movies though. I mean,
now listen, I'm not complaining. It's not like I'm just like, oh, this was the most terrible movie I've ever seen. It was pretty bad, but you can't like it's not a masterpiece. Like
No.
it's a popcorn movie. It's
Popcorn movie.
it's supposed to be silly.
But the thing that makes it different than most popcorn movies, the thing that grounds it more so, is the thread with Ed Harris's character and his motivation.
Dude, don't even grounding. It's not grounded
Yes.
at all.
Now, the grounding in the 90s, the thing that keeps this movie grounded happened a few times in the 90s based on the Gulf War. They took soldiers that were taken advantage of. They took the mentality, the military mentality, and they show that these guys are human and they are not expendable, and they're fathers and brothers and dads that they basically just use and abuse. And they use that a few times in a lot of the 90s movies where as the subplot as to why the guy's doing what he's doing or whatever. That to me humanizes it a bit. It's not like it's a super villain like you see in a superhero movie, and it's not as ridiculous in Die Hard where you're like, why are these Germans doing what are they, German? Austrians? Why are they doing this? Why are they terrorists? What are they doing?
Okay, I feel sympathetic to those soldiers and their families. I do. Like,
It was pretty weird seeing the soldiers as the bad guys.
But
no,
they were
no,
justified in a way.
were they
No,
justified? See,
yeah,
the
not
thing is,
justified.
No,
though,
in their mind. In their mind, they were justified.
all right, well, you knew their motivation at
Right.
least. Their motivation was clear, and it was it's a good thing to want to give soldiers a proper burial and take care of their families. And
Right.
that's a good thing that we all should probably agree with, I think. But like if you're trying to get this message out, write a book. Like
Yes.
Well,
like
and
go on Joe Rogan's podcast. Like
this is the symptom of 1996.
Right.
Right? Where we no longer have the Soviet Union and we don't yet know who we can fling our action movie heroes up against yet. And so instead of trying to
it was
make
the beginning of the offensive too. Like your villains shouldn't be this certain race or this because you didn't want to be stereotypical. So it was the beginning of that where they were kind of, all right, we've done the terrorists, we've done this. It's been very like stereotypical. We need to kind of find a different way to create these action movies without offending people.
Well, and
So
it is in the
it's the beginning
shadow
of that.
of Oklahoma City, which
Right.
for the first time in a
Homegrown.
lot of people's lives, you had to look at somebody who looked just like you
Right.
doing these atrocious things, and that's a whole different story. But
That's actually I scrolled across this thing on Facebook, which was like, what was the earliest news story you remember?
Right.
And that was it.
The Oklahoma City
Yeah, that's
bombing.
the earliest news story I remember. And I was like, was it that or was it Princess Di? But that happened first.
Right. But to me, with this movie, what they do right is the whole time from the very beginning, they show, even though he's the main villain, they show his compassion. Like when they go and they steal the vapor, the poison,
He says he's sorry.
they're not shooting any of these guys to death. They're
Oh,
all
right.
getting darts. But you're like halfway into that siege before you realize they're getting darts.
Right.
Before they take over Alcatraz, he goes to the little girls, the school kids, and they're like, go tell your teacher, get in the bus and get out of here. Like, they just show him, even to the very end, where he screws up the coordinates on purpose. Like, it's just like, he doesn't want to do this. He's just trying to get his point across.
well, and it's
Well,
an
yeah.
interesting thing for them to build him up as this compassionate anti-hero, which I had on my notes that I thought George was going to love an anti-hero, but I guess he couldn't see past the fluff. But anyway, the thing about
Hey, I liked him.
the way that they
I
set up
like
Ed
the
Harris's
anti-hero.
character-
Don't put words in my mouth.
I knew you would. The thing that they do well and or don't do well, depending on how you look at it, how it ages, this idea that he is this compassionate guy with a political message, but to get his point across, he has to bring in Tony Todd and his other. Oh no,
Yeah.
that's too many Tony Todds. Oh God, he's here again. So you get Tony Todd and the crazy-eyed guy, whatever his name is, the sidekick.
Right.
So you have to rely on these bad guys to get your point across, and so you get this kind of cop-out thing where you never have to make Ed Harris go all the way bad guy,
Right.
but instead it's the decisions he made and the people he brought in who take over and go all the way bad guy. It's an interesting thing. I don't know if it's successful, but it's certainly a move to keep
It
your
was
hero,
successful for me.
anti-hero from getting gross.
Yeah. Because
Keep
they
him from
make
getting
him
dirty.
a bad guy, and he's not really, doesn't have redeeming qualities, but you kind of feel bad for him, but you still think he's a piece of shit for doing this. Like, I think they did it enough to where, like when he says, it's done. It's that they called my bluff, basically.
Yeah.
And then the younger guys are like, no.
We bluffed.
I've given
They
my
called it. The mission's over.
Yeah, mission's over. And they're like, no, we've ruined our entire lives cashing in on this. We want our money, and we got to see this through. So then they become the bad guys, and he say? I mean, you kind of get that kind of storyline in some. You get it in Spider-Man sometimes, with like one villain will see the error of their ways and kind of fight for the good side or whatever. You'll get it in the Batman movie sometimes. So it's like, if it's done right, it redeems the character to an extent. Doesn't fully redeem them, but at least you're seeing their redemption in their own mind, I guess. I don't know how to explain it.
I
mean,
love redemption stories.
You could almost say it's like Caesarian in that he never actually has a chance for redemption. He is just murdered by the people
Right.
around him.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah, then you
interesting.
could see it
They
to the
don't
end.
try to redeem him, right? There's no moment where he like tries to real quick change the coordinates of the last missile to hit them and take them out, not anybody. You know,
Right.
there's none of that. He just kind of, they have their little confrontation and he's gone. Game over.
It's just, to me, it's the little snippets, the school kids, the wherewithal to have the guard put the people in the cells and then take over, so that they don't have to manhandle any of the hostages. Like, to me, it's just the whole movie kind of shows him in a good enough light to almost like a Darth Vader thing, where it's like he's savable. He might have done bad things, but he's savable.
And he also benefits from Michael Bay and his production staff doing a really good job of producing situations where they can look technically proficient. Even down to that initial assault to steal the missiles, right? That is one of the most tightly edited, kind of perfect action sequences. And like Travis said, if you're not paying attention, if you miss that one beanbag at the beginning, you're thinking they're shooting these guys until the darts are clear. But it's tight, it's fast, there's no lag. It's like that smooth, perfect Michael Bay editing he's known for now, up until the part where he did a bunch of Transformers movies with too much CGI.
Yeah.
But that's good action cinema, man. Cut anyway.
But he at least redeemed himself when he made Bumblebee. I don't want to go into like a Transformers conversation, but at least with that movie, him producing, not directing, he allowed them to do what was right to those characters. And it's a shame that he didn't let other people take over the original 4, because they just got out of hand.
I have a feeling we're going to have a very similar conversation about Avatar in a few years.
Yeah. Probably. Because Bumblebee is grounded and the other 4 are not. Even though they're all about... Oh my God,
we all have different opinions about what grounded means.
Grounded, for me, when you're talking about a fantasy movie or a science fiction movie, even though the things that are happening are crazy and outlandish, like people being sucked into a book and now they're, like Narnia, they're getting sucked into a closet and now they're in this world. Well, how grounded are these characters in this world? To me, it's fantastical, but they're still regular human beings that are in this world. So
does grounded to you mean like people are behaving in a way that is consistent with their characters and consistent with the situations?
I think how I'm saying it is more like, even though it's a fantastical movie.
Because when I think of grounded, I think of like Saving Private Ryan.
Okay.
Oh, but see,
like it's a story.
That's real life.
It's a story. Exactly. It's a story that didn't really happen, right? That didn't really happen. Is that a true story? That didn't really happen.
That's not a true story. But
so that is the definition of grounded.
Okay.
Is that a true story? Did that really happen? No, that didn't.
It's like Titanic.
Did it not?
Like the sinking happened, but none of those characters are
totally
real.
Grounded. Yeah.
Right.
That's a grounded story.
I'm saying if you're doing a biopic or whatever, yes. But when you're talking about a movie about giant robots coming from outer space,
yeah, it's automatically not grounded.
Right. But when you think of like
when
you think of a Christopher Nolan Batman.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan Batman is excellent.
It's grounded in reality. He sit there and he says, "Okay, if this guy were real."
Yeah.
So to me,
that's pushing it. That's right on the edge.
But that's what I'm saying with grounded. Like when you watch the Transformers movies, they're ridiculous.
Right.
But when you watch Bumblebee, you're almost like, okay, if this were to happen in real life,
maybe I have to
this
see
is what it would look like.
Maybe I have to see Bumblebee. I mean, just the thought of what I know of Transformers.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Power Rangers. But go ahead.
I suggest sitting with your daughter and watching it. It's good.
Well, and the thing about grounding is, grounding can happen in degrees, right? Like, yes, Saving Private Ryan is a grounded film, absolutely, right? Like, nothing in that movie is fantastical except that it didn't happen. But is that grounded, or is that just, fiction? Is that just historical fiction? Like
historical fiction. Yeah.
Do you require it to be in an historical or realistic?
No, it doesn't have to be historical. No.
This is where the shades of grounding would come in, right? Like if we wanted to, if we had like a chart in front of us, we could pick apart and try to find exactly where it is that George is no longer grounded. And it sounds like probably Batman. Batman Begins, maybe, or
Batman
or the Batman
is the edge. That's the very, very edge. It blurs the line.
But then, like 7, is 7 grounded?
I would say that that's pretty grounded.
Because remember, we went through a couple of things where it's like, well, how could he have possibly known that this, and that? Okay, just go with it. He's just. But I mean, you don't have to just go with it.
There's another one.
Silence of the Lambs is less grounded than Manhunter.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, very grounded.
Yeah.
The original one, yeah.
Again,
rather grounded.
If this were to happen, this is probably what it would look like. Even if you watch a Godzilla movie.
You said that about The Fly.
Right.
If this were to happen, this is how it would happen.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, you could have The Fly where it's like ridiculous amount of science fiction CGI and this and that, and it's never explained. Or
and
you can
he's
have
literally
like,
a fly, and he's buzzing around, and he's talking as a little fly. And instead they're just like, oh, he just falls apart.
they explain that the mutation of the cells makes you
We don't have to
disintegrate.
rehash it.
But I'm just saying, like, to me, that's at least if this were to happen, if you were to mutate because you mixed with a fly, they at least did it realistically, and you wasn't just a fly head with a human body walking around. Like,
okay,
to me,
dude, again, you're like, they did it realistically, and I'm like, I have no idea if that's how it would.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's the word I'm looking for. Realistic fantasy.
Okay, yeah, we just have different levels.
Like if you watch
of
the Muppet, if you watch a
grounded.
Muppet
It's
movie
fine.
and the Muppets are walking around in New York City and they're with human beings, you're sitting there going, "This would never fucking happen."
Dude,
they're puppets.
A Muppet Christmas Carol was very grounded.
But
I thought.
it can't be grounded because they're Muppets.
I know.
I don't know.
No, I mean it's just this is an interesting conversation about like what does grounded mean for each person because
Like
it's kinda
Terminator.
different.
The movie, the
It's
Terminator
not
movie,
grounded at all.
no, but in a realistic fantasy way, they try to make it realistic to the viewer of how they covered these endoskeletons with fake tissue, how it degrades. Like Jim Cameron takes his time to say, okay, they're going to take on shrapnel, they're going to take on damage. This is what that would look like if these things really existed in real life. To me, that's grounded.
Okay, that to me is just having explanation for your, all your cool effects that you do.
Okay.
Yeah, you could also
Which
argue
is
that that is
fine.
just like consistent internal logic.
Yeah, and that's fine. A lot of places have that. Like Star Wars has that. Every time someone has a question about like, hey, how does this happen? It's like some nerd comes up with something that makes it okay.
Right.
It's like, okay, it's
That's
grounded because this nerd said that's how that works.
But that's a good example because if you look at science fiction, you can look at Aliens, an Alien, and then you
Mhm.
can look at Star Wars. Both science fiction, both space, both aliens, whatever. But Ridley Scott's
Aliens, much
and
more grounded.
Jim Cameron's Aliens is way more grounded
Much more, yes.
than Star Wars. So it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to do it and you want it to be realistic.
So I think what Dan was saying makes sense that like, for a movie that takes place in space in the future, how grounded is it? It's
Right.
like kind of there's levels
Well,
of
you can
it.
have human beings wearing masks and tunics, or you can have a real creature that looks like it was organic.
Yeah.
To me, that's the difference.
If for a movie where a robot transforms into a bunch of different things, how grounded is it?
Right.
Yeah, for a movie where they're going to send an entire squad of people to go save this one guy to get him out of the war because all his brothers are dead. Oh, and he's all made up and none of this ever happened. Versus
Right.
something like Band of Brothers, where it's just like an adaptation of, real events for the
Right.
most part.
Yeah.
I imagine that Saving Private Ryan could have happened, but it would have been a lot less eventful. It would have been like, hey, listen, this dude's brothers all died in the war, and like he's the last one, so like send him back to his mother in Kentucky or wherever they're from, right?
Right.
And basically,
Instead, you're going to get 14 more soldiers killed just to find them.
no.
No.
In real life, it would just be like, Private Ryan, you're going home. I need to get on a plane and go home.
Right.
But
they were
like
in
that would be
battle,
that would be like
so-
the real life version of that.
Yeah, I
It
don't know
depends
that
on how
worked
far
back
up
in
the line he
40s.
was. If you watch Band of Brothers, especially the Bastogne stuff, and you imagine like
Yeah.
trying to get one of those guys home, you might need to send in Tom Hanks.
Yeah, if they're
But
dug in
but
like
the
an Alabama tick.
Yeah, but the
know.
really grounded version of Saving Private Ryan that I described would be a really boring movie.
Mm.
And I have heard a lot of things about Band of Brothers, Dan, and all of them good.
Oh,
So
it's
at
a
some
hell
point,
of a show.
That's
I
a
would
great
really
show.
like to
That's a good binge.
watch that.
I did
That's
that
a
one and the
great binge.
Pacific right before we moved. And I'd never seen the Pacific, but I finally got around to watching it. And yeah, it's not as good as Band of Brothers, but here's my hot take. Still better than anything I could have made. So
Mm.
go Pacific.
That's a good standard.
Also, we talk a lot in the history circles about Verdun, the battle in World War I that is literally as close to hell as humans have ever lived through,
Mm.
at least in that theater of war. I don't know that the Pacific theater was too far away from that in World War II. Some of those battles are just like, holy shit. How did anyone survive mentally through this? And they capture it in the Pacific show a couple of times.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's not fun, but it's really good. But not as good as Band of Brothers.
Well, I think would Band of Brothers be more of like the human character story as opposed to is Pacific more of a, or do they build characters as well? Is it more like
They still build
situations?
characters, but the issue is Band of Brothers follows that specific group of dudes from like training through, and there's just, you don't get as many lovable attached characters as you do in Band of Brothers as you do in Pacific. You attach to a few characters, and they're wonderfully developed, but it's just on a different level.
It's like watching Full Metal Jacket from beginning to end, or watching Full Metal Jacket after boot camp.
Exactly.
It's still, you're just not getting the full background of all these guys.
You still like
Yeah,
Joker.
I hear
You're happy Joker found a friend. Oh
Yeah.
no, stuff's going sideways, but you just don't have the attachment that you did from Easy Company. But
Gotcha. Word.
Very good.
Wow, we got all that from The Rock.
hey, but the best line in The Rock, I think, is and a Congressional Medal of Jesus. That's really good. That's a good line. Also, I mean, George, you really didn't like it when Nicolas Cage says he doesn't want to bring a child into the cruel world or whatever.
Oh, that was entertaining.
And then she says she's pregnant, and he says, well, a lot's happened since then.
Well, no, she's like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, that's not at the time. She's like, what are you talking about at the time? That was 7 seconds ago. He's like, well, a lot has happened since then.
That is a classic.
So
that is true.
good.
Classic.
That was a very, very good exchange.
That's a classic
It was-
Nicolas Cage scene. I'm sorry. When he has that back and forth and he says, well, a lot has happened since then. That is so, like, classic him.
Yeah.
And you
But
don't
yeah, I
like
can
it
see
when
how
they're
he's
on the
creating.
park bench, and he's like, oh, yes, it's time to leave, James Bond. We've really got to go do that thing. Oh, yes, he's helping us now. Like, it's so good. I mean, granted, the thing that follows it is pretty stupid, but, like,
Yeah.
fun. It's fun.
It's definitely fun. Oh,
Yeah.
Michael Biehn made an appearance in this movie. I didn't know he was in this.
Oh, yeah, he's all over I
I
mean,
was like, holy crap.
he's a
I love
real
that
good
guy.
leader until that one part. But he does a good job opposite of Ed Harris,
Mhm.
shouting very you can't handle the truthy back
Yeah.
and forth.
Yeah, well, it was the same time period.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. These movies are not created in a vacuum. They're talking to each other, and so
Mhm.
Yeah, that scene didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me.
the shower
just a-
scene.
No, the scene where the
Ranking officers go back
yeah,
and forth.
when the SWAT team enters Alcatraz through the sewer hole and they're surrounded immediately. Like why would you sentence all your dudes to death?
Because they didn't know what they were dealing with.
Hi, this is Dan in Post. We had an entire conversation about the shower scene earlier, and George didn't know the scene we were talking about and faked his way through it, and is just now realizing that the most iconic scene in this movie is when the SEAL team fights the Force Recon Marines, which I said explicitly, in the shower stalls. Oh my god. Huh. Guys, what the hell? Anyway, back to George figuring it all out right in front of our faces.
But like, dude, at that point you just surrender.
You have to be the smartest guy in the room, but if you're arrogant, you're not really the smartest guy in the room
You just-
sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're gonna be dead anyway. Cause like you don't know because the whole whatever F-18s dropping super napalm wasn't
Yeah.
really, we weren't sure if that was even gonna be ready, but like chances are you're gonna be dead anyway. So maybe it does make a little more sense. I'm kind of thinking through this in my head right now. But
Think
when
of
I was
it-
watching the scene, I was like, why is he just not just saying, all right, you got me. There's no way I'm going to live through this if I start shooting. So, or like any of my guys are going to live through this. So let's just surrender and hope that, the government,
Court martials are
something,
kind.
yeah, exactly. Something else,
Huh.
Just tell them I hit you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I mean that's the thing. It in a lot of ways, the shower scene is a more successful version of, and this might be controversial, a more successful version of the Joker fairy scene from The Dark Knight that I've always kind of disliked. Because in this scenario, they have innocence to save, but they also have their own side coming with the thermite. And
Right.
so they think that they can, appeal to the humanity and the duty-bound aspects of these Force Recon Marines, not realizing that they're just as dug in their beliefs as the other. And so you end up with that 300 Spartans kind of situation where, like, you're at a tactical disadvantage and you probably are all going to die, but you refuse to budge.
when you say the bathroom scene, are you talking about that scene?
Yeah, the
when-
shower room scene where the
shootout.
the Force Recon
the-
Marines are up top. They have the tactical advantage.
That's in a bathroom?
It's a giant. What's it, like a giant shower thing?
Oh, okay. When you're talking about the shower scene, I thought, like, earlier when we were talking about the shower
The
scene, I thought
entire
you were
time,
talking-
I've only been referring to the shootout in the showers. I know you thought it was
okay.
the Sean Connery thing. I thought we cleared that up earlier. We'll go to the tape and see.
No,
You're looking at my
not
ass.
no.
George is looking at my ass.
I'm talking about when they strip. What's the guy's name who is? God, I really should have.
This is the first time you've seen this.
I
so
should
don't
have the.
expect you to
I should
know.
have the list of actors' names.
Well, if you
and
need a
characters'
technical
names.
advisor, that's Harry
No,
Humphreys.
we stopped.
Just pause the technical
Yeah, we
advisors.
stopped the
Costume
credits.
supervisors.
We always leave the credits up on the on the television screen so that we can see, like, the main actors and characters' names as we're talking about them. Okay, but all right. So
Epic
back
fail.
to the bathroom scene. I thought earlier, not the Sean Connery in the shower scene. The shower scene I thought was when, after the main bad guy says, it's over. Like, we bluffed. They called it. It's over. And then they strip him of his leadership and basically take over, and they get in like a standoff, like a
coup,
Mexican standoff type thing. I thought that was in a shower. Maybe it wasn't in a shower, but I
Was
was
it
like,
kitchen
I
maybe?
wasn't paying attention to the surroundings at that point during that scene. So when he said the shower
You
scene,
were riveted.
when they had like their guns pointed at each other, and I'm like, okay, yeah, the scene at the end.
No,
You
the
weren't
entire
talking
time.
about the
I've been
scene at
talking
the
about
end.
the Navy SEAls coming
Oh
up
my
through the drain in the
God.
floor with John McGinley's double tricky motion detector that you think you blocked it, but you in fact just set it off.
Okay.
And you've got the elevated position for the Force Recon Marines. By the way,
All right, well, that makes more sense.
the Force Recon Marines who look exactly like the Marines that end up showing up in Half-Life a couple of years later. I mean, this movie visually inspired the next 10 years of military stuff up until Black Hawk Down.
Let's talk about the assistant production coordinator, John Labib.
Yeah,
He did a
since
great
he's
job.
on the screen right now. He
did a great job. Those
And
bricks
and
looked
the
great.
second assistant director, Darren Rivetti.
You
Well, think
can't
about
say
this.
enough
Fantastic.
about the B team.
The
They
script
did a great job.
supervisors, Karen and Janine.
Yep, Karen and Janine.
They had a task. to
Janine
keep-
Bird, wasn't
yeah,
she?
They
yeah,
had to keep Nicolas Cage on point and on book.
that's true. They had a
I'm sure it
very
was hard.
they had a very tough job. All right, so we're just reading the random people's names off the screen now, which
What are we watching next week, Travis?
I don't know. I guess is it the third or second movie from the Triumvirate that you sent me?
please be a good movie.
Oh my
please
God,
be
George!
a good
I don't know what
movie.
to do.
I think
Because
after
sometimes-
how well this wins, I think the one, you could say the most prestigious of the movies we talked about, maybe that's the one to bring out next.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
All right, so we're watching a movie.
We're watching a movie that I hope you like, because I don't want you quitting.
I hope I like it too.
But sometimes you gotta break a few eggs before
I
you
didn't
make an
hate.
omelet. I'm just
I didn't
saying.
hate this either. I didn't hate it.
There.
It's okay.
I'm honestly, I'm almost thinking we should do a Friday 13th season of Nicolas Cage movies just to, just to break your balls. Starting
That would be
with
fun.
Moonstruck.
That would be fun.
Yeah, we'll watch his career blossom, and then you'll appreciate him like a fine wine.
Dude, there is an episode of Community where they take a class called Nicolas Cage, Good or Bad, Good Actor or Bad Actor. It's a hilarious
I love it.
episode, and yeah, we should definitely do that.
All right. Well, Nicolas Cage is not in this movie we're
Oh,
watching,
darn.
but he will be in a couple in the future.
Oh, darn it.
So we're gonna watch the ever so awesome movie, The Prestige. Did you ever see that?
Oh, Dance of the Most Prestigious.
There it is.
It's called The Prestige.
We had 3 movies on the list, and I just couldn't remember which way we were going. Because
Oh, Dan, you're silly.
Quitting.
Now, are you familiar with a movie called The Prestige?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, let's just leave it at that. Maybe don't
Should
read
I-
the credits when
should
it
I-
starts.
Should I guess what it's about?
Yeah.
Probably a guy in a leather jacket.
Big old machine gun.
Like a trench
And
coat.
a machete.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Let's
I
find
don't know.
Spoiler alert: I have not seen this movie either.
out. Ooh,
Oh, cool.
boy.
So
I hope it has a lot of Jalo references. And I hope it is subtitled
oh gravy.
in Mandarin.
I'll take Mandarin. I like their oranges.
I hope it is subtitled in Mandarin.
Well, I'm excited now. I forgot that Travis hasn't seen this
Yeah,
either.
I hadn't seen it.
Woo-hoo,
I
boy.
know of it, but I haven't actually sat down and watched it. It's kind of like a No Country for Old Men, because I knew about that movie. I knew
You
what
just
it was,
haven't seen
but
it.
I had never sat down and watched it.
All
so.
right, cool. Well, I'm excited.
Yeah.
And I've been listening to our podcast a little bit lately, which is something I normally don't do, but I just got new AirPods.
Nice.
So whenever our episodes end, they kind of end a little abruptly. So I just want to, like, this time say
Do you wanna hug it
goodbye
out?
to the listeners and just be like, hey, thanks for listening. Episode's over.
Okay.
So,
Well, we should actually, tell them to go to our Patreon once we have it.
yeah, well, Dan always does that, but it's always like
Right.
afterwards. Sometimes it just ends a little abruptly. And thank you for listening, listeners.
That's true. It
We
does.
appreciate
Just
it.
kinda like mid-sentence, and then he's like,
Thank you for listening to the Remedial Film Class Podcast. As always, you can find us at facebook.com/remedialfilmpod. And you can email us remedialfilmpod@gmail.com. We'll be back next week with Christopher Nolan's The Prestige. And George has no idea it's his new favorite movie. And if he hates it, he's fired.